What's happening, dude?
Hey, long time no talk to.
I know, it feels like forever.
Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Mike, and this is Travis.
No, we do this every time. I'm Travis, you are Mike. One of these days we're going to get it right.
Again, don't try to confuse me because it's just too easy. It's beneath you.
I can't even believe it's
All right.
2021.
Yeah, man. Thank God. Goodbye. I mean, even though it was a sad and sort of solitary New Year's Eve, that was the main thing I was thinking about was get this year the fuck out of here.
I think that's what everybody felt. It was, you know how a lot of times in the new year it takes you a while to remember to write the new date, whatever you're writing on a check or something. This year everyone's like, fuck 2020. I've got 2021 ingrained. I got that one figured out.
Do you think it's going to be better?
I do. I mean, I would like to say how could it be worse, but you know, Biden's coming into office, so I guess it could be.
Yeah. So guess what I've been doing? Waiting for you to get freed up to do this. I have been listening, and first I read it, and now I've been listening to the entire transcript of the phone call from Donald Trump to the Secretary of State.
Spoiler alert, we got some of that pulled.
Okay, good.
But yeah, that's good that you're reading it. I don't know that I have the whole call, but how long is it?
Oh, no, it's an hour long.
Okay, no, I don't have the whole thing.
No, it's okay. But any part of it will be good because there's no part of it where he doesn't sound like an idiot. And so you can listen to him. I thought maybe I was going to try to maybe read a passage of it myself and record it and play it back for you as if it was part of the transcript.
That sounds pretty good. You know, it's funny because you say, you've read it. I am a big advocate of that. I think, when you're listening to stories about the news or you're listening to somebody else tell you about a headline, it's always good to go and read it for yourself. So I applaud you for that. Is that what you did on your New Year's Eve?
I just doing it right now.
Oh, what did you do on your New Year's Eve?
Oh, on New Year's, what did I do? I read. I think I finished one of the books I was reading. So I've killed it, man. I've read 4 books since just after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah,
like with pictures and everything, or no pictures?
No pictures. The
actual
last
books?
book, actual books. Now the last book I read is a book that I reread, which I almost never ever do. But I'll tell you a quick story here. Do you have Apple TV Plus?
Is that the paid for, like, where they have their own original programming?
Yep.
No, I don't have that.
Okay, so on Apple TV Plus is on that platform, that streaming platform, coming up here in January or February, something like that. There's going to be a show, a multi-part show called The Foundation.
Never heard of it.
It's just called Foundation. So Foundation is a series of books written by Isaac Asimov. And probably my all-time favorite science fiction writer. He started writing these books in 1945, I think, and then finished up the last of them in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and he passed away in 92. But you know the name, right? Isaac Asimov.
I know the name. I'm not familiar with the material.
Yeah, and he is one of the 2 or 3 greatest hard science fiction writers of all time.
How many books are in this series?
Well, this particular series, there's a solid 5 books, but there's also additional books that are part of another series he wrote called the Robot Books. So, but these are the Foundation books, and this is it covers a massive amount of time, thousands of years of future history, so far into the future that they really don't even remember Earth. They're all human beings, but they spread out over the galaxy. So it's super interesting. Anyway,
is this like alien shit?
No. This is.
It's written in the future, and they're referring to their history.
It's humanity. Yeah, it's humanity's history.
It's like Nostradamus type of stuff.
No, well, it's funny that you say that. Without knowing anything about it, this the idea here is that that there's somebody in the future that develops something that's called psychohistory, psychology and history, and it actually does predict the future. It's a science that can predict what population masses will do in the future. Can't predict what one person will do or when a certain incident will happen, but can predict what the population, human population, will do over an extended period of time. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's gonna.
Give us a teaser. What do they do? What does the human population do?
Well, in this world, at this point, the Galactic Empire has ruled over the human race for 12,000 years, and we don't even know what happened 3,000 years ago. So, imagine it. It's not hard to think that after 12,000 years...
You mean we right now, we don't know what happened in this life?
We barely know that. We barely know that the Egyptians even existed. I mean, we don't know much. So 12,000 years of this galactic empire, and a group of scientists led by one man in particular decides this psychohistory predicts that within 300 years, I think, that the galactic empire is going to begin to fall and crumble. And that will be followed. That will be, well, because it's what the predictions of this science tells them, but the reasons are always the same as they are for any society crumbling and falling to the ground. Lack of innovation, different things like that. So
being taken over by the overlords, the henchmen.
Remember all the best science fiction, and so we're not talking about. And I enjoy Star Wars and Star Trek and all that stuff, but that's not real science fiction. So real science fiction is really about philosophy and social comment. And so so the tidbit here is that they see that society is going to crumble, and it's going to take 30,000 years for another empire to emerge, and because what's going to happen is when it crumbles, everything will degrade into violence and brutality and stuff like that. So the foundation, which is what this TV show is going to be about, was set up to record all of the knowledge humanity had amassed in all this time, and in so doing, limit that time after the fall to 1,000 years instead of 30,000 years, and so that in 1,000 years, a new second empire can emerge and
be back up to where they were.
Yeah, humans can begin to advance again instead of being in the dark ages. So. Yeah, pretty interesting. Hopefully it's going to be a great TV show.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything about it, but the premise of that story fascinates me because there's a lot of elements in there that I think are applicable to today. And one thing I kind of plucked out of what you just said was, imagine if you had all this knowledge, and the goal, like you said, was to try to replicate your progress and get back to where you were within 1,000 years. You would then have the ability to kind of sift through that and take out the bad shit, and maybe even leapfrog even faster to get past some of the worst periods in that history. Imagine if we could do that now.
Yeah, well, hopefully we're not in the middle of some kind of dark ages.
I think we are.
Yeah, it's we are living in. I just can't imagine that this time period right here, starting over the last. Probably maybe starting with Barack Obama, maybe just because of the significance of his presidency being the first African-American mixed, person of color, or whatever you want to call it, to become the president, starting there and going forward, all through the Trump years and whatever's coming up. This isn't going to be, this has to be eventually be one of the most important periods of history in American history anyway.
I think so.
As we go forward, right?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of it has to do with the technology, the information age. Everything is available. When I go on these COVID rants, I've said multiple times before that I do believe that the same scenario that we're faced with, if it was pick a time in recent history, 10 or 15 years ago, I don't think we would have reacted this way because the information wasn't on your fingertips like it is now. Shit, have you turned on Have you turned on the Track My COVID thing on your phone?
I looked at it, but I haven't turned it on yet.
Yeah, I didn't either. And there's signs when you drive on the freeway, the flashing billboards that tell you to turn it on. But, I just got back from Hawaii, and of course, I didn't want to be tracked. Anyone to know where I was, where I was going.
Well, I have all the shit turned off on my phone. So I was going to turn it on. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll do this. This will be good for, society. But then as I read, I started going down the rabbit hole of trying to do it. And it said, I got to go into my settings and turn back on all my location services. I've had that shit turned off for 5 years, So
I know.
I'm not doing that. So,
well, there was, so when I, to go to Hawaii, you have to take the COVID test before you go. And then within, I don't know, a week or two before we got there, they implemented, at least on the Big Island, the second test requirement, which was kind of on and off depending on funding and all kinds of things. They'd had that in the past since October, but they did have a second test requirement. So we had taken our COVID test 3 days before, which was the current requirement. And then when we landed, we had to take another test. It was the rapid antigen test. You didn't have to wait for the results, but then if you tested positive, they would call you. And then, of course, you quarantine and all that. But if you were positive, then, you're kind of fucked. You have to go in these shelters that they set up for you. But imagine if you had your COVID tracker on, or even if you don't, I think just with your cell phone or your smartwatch, they could find out where you are. So I wasn't about any of that. I left my
with your
phone
COVID,
off.
This COVID tracking thing. So I'm not an expert on it, but let me kind of see if I can recite here what I think I know about it. There's no specific information. The only thing that can possibly happen from having that on is you can receive a notification when this system it determines that you have been in close contact with someone that has tested positive. And that's it.
That's what they tell us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so.
But you're not turning it on, and I'm not turning it on.
Yeah, I don't think I'm turning it on. I don't think so. Yeah, that's funny. So, yeah, I'm looking at all the numbers and stuff. My blast off date for Hawaii is.
You got some time.
What the hell is it? It's the first week of March, I think.
Right? A lot's going to change between now and then.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, it's hard to guess with Hawaii because they are their own crazy place and they changed with the trade winds literally, but yeah. I think it's safe to assume that you would be expected to have a COVID test, I'm going to say through June, even if you can produce proof of a vaccination. That's just a guess. Maybe at some point they'll alternate between, hey, if you have a vaccination, you don't need the test, but who the fuck knows, man? It's wild.
Right. And, getting the test, so this maybe is a good segue to tell you a little story that I didn't go into when we spoke earlier today.
Is this the black eye story?
No, this is not the black eye story. So for all those listening that are not watching this on YouTube or can't see the video, I have a pretty nice black eye. So I think, was it?
It's like your classic black eye.
Yeah, it's a classic black eye, right? It's right. So I was cleaning the garage and in that process, something slid off a shelf and hit me in the eye. So it really looks
That's what all the battered wives say.
That's right. Debbie got pissed. And I sent my sister a text and a picture. And I says, yeah. I go, I told my sister, hey, Debbie got pissed. She finally got tired of my shit and hit me in the eye. And my sister's like, I believe it. That's not hard to believe at all. So it didn't really happen, but it's been fun. So yeah, it's a pretty nice shiner. But here's the thing. So here's the quick story. I got a COVID test a week ago, Thursday. So Thursday I got it. So on last Wednesday, we received text from a family saying that a mother and two daughters in this family all had tested positive for COVID and had symptoms. They were sick.
Which is why they went to get their test?
Well, yeah, which is why they got tested the Friday before, and they just got their results. So let me back up one step. So Debbie's ex-carpool partner, he got cancer. We found out about a year ago. And It was up in his shoulder, and it looked like he was going to need to have most of his arm and quite a bit of his shoulder lopped off. You and I both actually know somebody who had a very similar operation for that. And so, when we found out about that, we said, well, if it comes down to that, we know someone that's had that and he's living a full, good life, and he got that. Unfortunately, this is not the same kind of cancer that our other friend had. It's a rare cancer, and it metastasized quickly, and it went into his lungs. So what really took him out here, so they had to make a decision about this arm surgery, and he went into the hospital because he was in a lot of pain. And this time they couldn't drain his lungs. They knew it went into his lungs, but they didn't think it was. They were going to do the surgery anyway, and then hopefully maybe he still had a few years to go with the lungs, but the lungs went fast. And so he passed away the Tuesday before Christmas. So we knew he had come home from the hospital that prior weekend, and he came home to hospice, and he only lasted a day after he got all the shit home and set up the whole little hospital room in the house. Yeah. So Debbie went over. So that was the Tuesday before Christmas. Debbie went over the next day and, to see the wife and the daughters. We know them all. They're all in town. And nobody was sick or anything. And she was there. They had masks on, but she hugged the wife and all this kind of stuff. And then we found out the following Wednesday, we got a text. So almost 8 days later, we got a text from one of the daughters saying that, hey, the wife had tested positive, and so had 2 of the 3 sisters and their families. And all of them had symptoms, all the ones that tested positive.
After that, though, right? I mean, they didn't know that before.
We didn't know that till let's see, today's Monday, so last Wednesday. So we're like, crap, that means you're exposed. And, had we known about it sooner, although they went in for the test, we didn't really find out about it till the following Wednesday. So we started checking around. Hey, where do we get a test? The only person I knew that had one, was out of town. I didn't want to bother you in Hawaii about this. So we just started going on the internet and looking around. And frankly, I got to say, it's just all fucked up. It's just, you go on the internet, it's just a complete.
Oh, I know. What kind of test did you get?
Well, so we eventually got to talk to one of the daughters from this family. And she told us they went to Hoag Urgent Care, which is just an urgent care. I don't know if it has anything to do with Hoag Hospital or not, but there's one here in Tustin Ranch, and they had appointments due for the next day, open for the next day. So we made appointments for both of us. We went over there. Debbie got a rapid test because she told him she had symptoms.
But she didn't?
Well, it was really funny because, from the minute we found out that this family and, several of them had tested positive, Debbie started going downhill. She's really, no offense, hon, but you're a little susceptible to psychosomatic suggestion. So she got an earache. So between Wednesday afternoon and Thursday, she got an earache and a sore throat, and she was, having symptoms. And she was, frankly, I think, a little bit worried about it. And so because I never saw these people or came in contact with them, but if Debbie got exposed the prior Wednesday, and then she went back again on Thursday, this was before we knew, to take food to them and stuff. If she had it, I had it for sure. So we go in, they ask for a bunch of questions. The doctor calls it. We never go into the place. We sit in our car out in the parking lot.
Right.
It's cool. And so we talked to a doctor on the phone, and then they interviewed us both. And then he came out and they gave her the rapid test. So they stuck a swab up both nostrils.
Yeah, which sucks.
And it goes all the way up until they rub the back of to your eye. Well, I think actually not to the brain. I think it goes to the back of your eyeballs. And because that's what it felt like to me. Like they were rubbing that motherfucker on the back of my left eye.
And they keep it in there.
Yeah. It's like, is this going to stop soon? And so just for me, just one side, he goes, which nostril do you think was damaged less during the 80s? And I said, well, probably this one here is the least deformed of the two. So Yeah, so she got a rapid test. It came back negative, and I haven't got my results back. So I got to find out if they just forgot about me or if it's really.
Yeah, you should call. No, at this point, you should call.
Yeah, so I got to check in and see how screwed up that is.
Well, I'm sure you're fine, like everybody else.
Yeah, but they're saying, hey, even if you get so we killed everything for New Year's. You asked what we did for New Year's Eve. Well, New Year's Eve never a big deal for us, but New Year's is the biggest holiday of the year for Debbie's family and for us. And we had to cancel everything. So we were completely alone on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
Well,
and it was fine.
And you can hold your head high and say that you did exactly what you've been advised to do. You followed the orders of your rulers because we were all told to do nothing.
Well, even though Debbie got a negative, but I hadn't got mine yet. She could still have it. I mean, he could still be there. So theoretically, she probably should get another test, but she never developed. We're way past the quarantine time now. Right. So she never developed any symptoms. The rapid test came back negative. So we moved on with life. For the
you should call. I mean, I think at this point you should have it back. You should have had it back by now.
I would think so. I thought they were going to text it to me, but I got to find out. It was a pretty good operation. They ran it pretty smooth. It was a little hectic. Got some cross information, but for all the actual person to person or telephone, on the telephone contact we had with the people that worked there, they were super nice. And so not ready to shit talk or anything for not sending me my results. Maybe this is when I'm supposed to get them. Or maybe they're popping in right now. I have everything shut off, so I couldn't know.
Yeah, we did the Vault test for Hawaii, which is the in-home test. They mail it to you, and then you do the saliva sample. But you have to log into a Zoom waiting room. So the nurse comes on, and then you show them the barcode. They log it. They check your ID, and then they watch you do the saliva. And not only is that, I think, a good test, if you're going to Hawaii, they earmark it for a rapid turnaround so you can get it back in time. But we did it for our daughter because we didn't want her to go through and have the nasal thing, because I've done that and it sucks.
Oh, the kids had to get it, huh?
Yeah, well, Busy did because she's old enough, so she had to do it. So we did that, and it was fine. She did great. We got the results back. But what we didn't know was that the Big Island had implemented the second test requirement. So we get there and we're in line, and they huddle everybody over to this other area, and it's like everyone's in hazmat suits and they're requiring a second test, and it's the nasal swab. And she's freaking out. I mean, that's the whole reason we did the Vault test, is so she wouldn't have to do the nose thing. And she's like shaking, and she's like trying to turn around and run the other way. But luckily, I mean, they kind of circle around your nostril. It's the rapid antigen test. They don't shove it up into your brain. And also we provided false information. So when we left there, if it was positive anyway, we weren't going to know. We were out of there.
Wow.
But it was freaky.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I thought it was, I really had not planned on getting a test, ever. And with the vaccines theoretically around the corner, but I guess they're fucking that up too. So, I thought, well, probably get by without doing it. But boy, once we thought that there was a significant chance, I mean, because, she was hugging her and all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, there was crying, there was stuff, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, people have to live. And I really think that, and not to turn this into a COVID conversation, but, it's the reality that we live with. I think that people have just come to the understanding that we have to live with it. And everything that you hear from the very beginning, we were all lied to. Where we are now in January 2021 is not the original story we were told back in March. And so they keep moving the goalposts. They keep changing the rules. We've all been lied to. And people are finally going, well, fuck, I just got to climb out from under this rock and just start living. And, now, of course, there's this new variant, which is not a surprise to anybody. We got stuff of Fauci if we want to play him. But that's all stuff that freaks people out. This new variant that originated, I think, in the UK. And people are like, okay, is this what's going to kill me, or how deadly is it? So there's all this information, and you probably read it in the news. The number of travelers through the airports over the holidays were, again, record numbers. I think Thanksgiving was a record from last March, and then the Christmas and New Year holiday was yet another record. And people are out traveling. They got to do what they got to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's way off. I mean, the holiday travel was
Certainly.
just a percentage of what it normally is, but compared to any other time period since this started last March, it was significant. And I mean, Travis, I don't know how much more I can talk about the COVID, but I will tell you that it sounds like the hospitals in this part of the state are pretty damn full. Mm-hmm. And so
yeah,
I mean, so getting a black eye, right? We already told that.
Yeah, don't go to the hospital for your black eye.
Yeah. So I mean, this was the first day. This was New Year's Day. I was out there starting to do it. So was it? So it was the next day. So Saturday, I go back out to do more, and I'm going to climb up and down a ladder that I've got extended up pretty high, 12 foot or something, and I got to climb up there and drag boxes down out of the top of my garage. And so right off the bat, I get 2 or 3 boxes down, and then I miscalculated. I think I'm on the last rung, but I'm not on the last rung. I'm on the next to the last rung. And so when I step down, it's way farther down than I think, and then I go backwards. And you've seen, Travis has seen me in action. He knows I'm like a gazelle or a ballerina. Well,
we have to travel with a first aid kit when we're around you. Your balance isn't the greatest, and you're prone to bleeding.
Yeah, so I went down on my ass hard. I mean, right now, my left ass cheek is just really, it hurts. And I pulled a hamstring inside my leg. And it was just it's just like, so I'm okay. I mean, it took later. I didn't really realize that I pulled anything until I sat down to eat lunch for a half an hour. And when I got up, I couldn't stand up or walk. And Jimmy's like, well, what are you doing? He's just like, what if you had to go to the hospital? You'd be fucked right now, right?
Well, you got to choose your exercises and plan your day around not having to fuck yourself.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I got shit I got to do. And
that is the right attitude. Everyone has shit to do, and that's why they're not worried about it. This whole thing about the ICUs and the hospital capacities, that's not unprecedented. I remember when my son was born, it was a bad flu year, regular flu year, and he was born in January, and so there was no room in the hospitals. They were screening parents and relatives. Nobody who wasn't needed to be in that room was supposed to be in there, and even that particular hospital that I was at was over capacity. And then after he was born, by the end of February of that year, or even March, he had some respiratory issues, and then we ended up having to go in an ambulance one night and had to go to 2 or 3, if I remember, hospitals before they could take us. There was no room for an infant. So, pretty scary times, but that's not unprecedented. I mean, you read the headlines and the stories about how this could never happen in America, this idea that, we're a first world country and we'd never have issues with hospital capacity. That's not true, and it's not unprecedented. So, and listen, I'm not saying I want this, but, stranger things have happened.
I think it would be a good time to try to stay out of the hospital.
It would be a good time to try to stay out of the hospital. That's true. So don't intentionally fuck yourself. But, don't do anything to fall off a ladder, which I did, by the way, when that whole thing, when I was telling you about when my son was born, I was getting something out of the attic in my garage, and I fell off the ladder. It literally swung out from under me, and I landed on my back and sprained my wrist, and, so you got to be careful. But what can I say?
Well, that pretty much brings up all the, the close encounter with COVID, right? My close encounter the third time. So
I'm proud of you. You were telling your story about reading your books. That is a New Year's resolution of mine, to get back into reading, which I was on a very good pace last year. From January to April of I had a goal of reading like 12 books, right? Shoot low, have 1 book a month or something. And from January, by April, I had finished 12 books.
That's cool.
And I got them in my Goodreads app, is where I track them. And then COVID happened and everybody was depressed, and I couldn't concentrate. I literally couldn't focus on a story, and I tried mixing it up: fiction, nonfiction, historical fiction, political science, everything. And I just couldn't concentrate because of the world collapsing around me. I couldn't believe that level-headed people would allow this to happen, but it did. So I'm back on track. It's
a great escape to get away from too much news, too much nonsense. It's really good. on Sunday, literally from late Saturday night till Sunday afternoon, I reread the whole book of the Foundation, the first book of this Foundation series. I read it in one day. I haven't done that even back when I was reading a lot, but I was, after having read those other three books, the economy and political books, and I finished Rage, by the way. Here's what I'm going to tell you about Rage. That's the book by Bob Woodward, the one that had all the quotes and everything. Nothing in it we didn't know, but to hear Bob Woodward go through it, and here's why he's who he is. He is a fucking great writer, just a fantastic writer. Just some of the best writing I've ever read.
He writes better than he talks. He fucking murmurs.
Well, he's old now, right?
I mean, I guess. Is that an excuse?
He's like 20 years older than I am, so to listen to him talk about anything is tedious.
Well, that's good. Thank you, because you've now set the stage for how long your podcast career can be. Because if you can, keep your voice and put a sentence together for the next 20 years, that's good.
If I start to sound like Bob Woodward or Fauci or Trump or the president-elect or any of those guys, I'm out. I'm done. Then I'll just have to start writing, which should be worse. So, but go ahead. Yeah, I kind of broke in with.
No, I don't know what I was saying. Oh, we
were talking about reading more. It's really good.
I jammed through 100 pages of The Naked Communist last night.
The Naked Communist.
Have you heard about that?
What is that?
I don't know. It was written in the late 1950s, I think, by a guy. I don't have his name in front of me, but he worked for the FBI, had a long career, worked directly at one point with J. Edgar Hoover, and then he ended up having a career in education, and then he was a police chief, and he, wrote all this information about communism, and it was kind of the Bible at one point, or that point in time, for a lot of the intelligence agencies, the FBI, CIA, and other agencies around the globe, and I think there have been some revisions to it over the years. He passed away maybe 10 or so years ago now, and I think was working on a new version of that, an updated version called The Naked Socialist, which he didn't finish, but his son finished. So,
but is that the one that has a picture of Bernie Sanders naked on the cover?
It is, yeah. That's also that image that you can't just get out of your mind, is burned in there forever, like the Trump, presidential camel toe picture. That one that you can't unsee.
I'm seeing it again right now.
But that one's good because it's, and again, I'm like 100 pages in, but you got to kind of bounce around and mix it up a little bit. You can't get too focused on one topic. At least I can't, or I can't concentrate.
I'm still trying to get through Guns,
Germs, and Steel. That's a difficult read. I ended up reading at least 2 books during that time. I read that one because you kind of have to really digest that one. I found that you have to digest it. I found myself rereading certain passages to really understand it. That's one of the books that it's good, I think, to have a notepad next to you and keep notes. You can't just
I'm
get
still
lost
reading
in
it. Just so you know, I haven't just flat out stolen it from you. You will get it back
all right.
someday.
That's all right. But I think after the communist one, I'm going to go to Obama's book. I got that one.
I know a lot of people that are reading that, including our very one of our favorite listeners, Mr. Jason.
All right.
He
somebody had to buy it for him, right? I'm assuming he didn't buy it.
I don't know, Jason. You can let us know. Did you not want to be caught dead by me?
Yeah, right. He put a new cover on it, paper bag cover on that book.
He doesn't live in Texas anymore.
I know, but still,
he's one of us. He'll soon be.
But they're going to track it. That's the thing. They're going to track your purchases. They're going to know he bought that book. They're going to send in material, suggested reading on your love of Obama.
That's right. You're going to be in trouble, Jason.
Yeah.
Better watch out. That's funny. Yeah, I haven't bought that book yet, so I'm going to let you read it then. Now that I know it's on your list,
it is. Yeah, I'm going to jam through it. I'm going to get back to it, and try to bounce around to different ideas. But it is, back to this communist thing. It's good to read because what I think is interesting about it is it's really starting with the origins of what we know as modern communism with Karl Marx and what's the other fucking guy, Engels. And was it Frederick Engels? Which
sounds familiar.
Kind of the Communist Manifesto was written in the mid 1850s, and then this particular book that I'm reading was written in 1950 or thereabouts.
100 years later,
right? And then now I'm reading it, whatever it is, 67 years after that. So it's kind of interesting to piece all that together. And I think when I read a book that was written by somebody in the 1950s, the writing style is a little bit different, and it kind of puts you in the mind of what Americans thought at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly if you go back, a lot of the things we talk about on the podcast and current events and where we are, there have been periods of our history, certainly during that time, where we were more united and more patriotic than we are now. And maybe you could probably argue from when, maybe after or the beginning of World War II, every decade thereafter, we've become more fragmented and less united. So wherever that peaked, probably in the 50s or early to mid 60s.
Yeah. As it turns out, I've read a lot of books that were written by science fiction authors. That's one of my favorite genres. So I've probably read, I don't know, a couple hundred books in that genre, and all the classic science fiction writers, Heinlein and Asimov and just so many of them, a lot of that's back from the 50s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And, when I think about it, as I started to reread this foundation book by Asimov, this very first book of this was actually written in 45. And I'm like, wow, this is, because I think I read it 20 years ago. And so I've forgotten everything. That's the beauty part of it. I never reread books, but I kept all these books, and I found them all while I was cleaning up the garage, just coincidentally. Oh, what's this book with sci-fi books written on the outside of it? Oh crap, it's the whole Asimov thing. So I've got like 9 books by him in there, and reading this one was one of the oldest ones. And I've read almost every science fiction book he's ever written. Now, he wrote a lot of other stuff, some of which I'm not interested in. He's not just a science fiction writer, but the style. And here's the thing about a great writer. So if you enjoyed this book do you know this guy's name, The Naked Communist? The author?
Yeah, let me look it up.
I'll find it. Don't worry about it. Here's the thing. If you can read a book by a writer that wrote it in the 40s or the 50s, and it doesn't feel dated to you, it may have its own style or whatever. That's a good writer. So
here's his name, W. Cleon Skousen or Skousen,
wow.
However you say that. A lot of these dudes back then went by initials, C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
W. Cleon Skousen or Skousen. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
I'm going to go with The Naked Communist. I think I'm going to be able to find it with that title.
Well, what is it about Bob Woodward's book what about his writing style? What is it that you like?
Just that he's a good writer.
Yeah, but why? What?
It was a page turner. I mean, as I got into it, it was I bought the 3 books, right? I bought the book about how democracies die. I bought the book from Scott Galloway. And both of those were, they weren't really, huge books, but they were pretty easy reads. But then I had this, and this is the only of the 3, this is the only big hardbound book that I bought, this Rage, because it's too new. It's not out in paperback yet. So I'm like, oh, I don't know if I even want to read this. I'm so fucking sick of Trump. And it's got his goddamn picture right on, half his face is right there on the cover. And I'm just like, I don't know if I can do this. And from the minute I opened it up, I could barely put it down. And, I had some time off, this was over the holidays and stuff. So it was really, I had some long blocks, like 5-hour reading periods
that's awesome
that I could do. And so, I just found myself burning through it. And, I mean, the story of Bob Woodward having 17 interviews with Donald Trump, over this time period, and then so it really tells the whole story of everything about Trump from right around the time the coronavirus started, all the way through it, and all of the different things that have happened. The stuff with Trump over the last 4 years has been multiple things every day, right? Every day there's some horseshit, too much to keep track of, and it's part of his strategy, right? Just stay in the news and keep feeding them all the shit. If it's just one catastrophe or drama or conspiracy after another, nobody can focus on anything. Bob takes great notes, right? I mean, he's a consummate journalist. And so everything is chronologically perfect and laid out. It's very understandable. and he's just a good writer, right? I mean, I never read All the President's Men. You know, I saw the movie a couple times, right? And just a great writer. I will probably now go back and read some of his other books, you know, because not because the subjects are drawing me to him, but because he's such a good writer. I'd like to see how he handles. You know, he's written several books about different presidents. This isn't even the first Trump book, right? His other book, this one's called Rage. His other Trump book is called Fear. So
was that written? Was that written with access to Trump?
No, Trump did not respond to that.
So it'll be interesting to see if you know the end result of this book has anything to do with the fact that he did have this direct access. If it influenced,
he does refer to it. Oh yeah, he does refer to that fact, and even Trump talks about it in some of the quotes and things that are in the book from Trump. He's like, "Yeah, I didn't respond to you on your other book, which you know, it was very terrible. That you know, he really he
wrote that shitty book about me. So this time I want to be here to cooperate."
Yeah, so I thought, well, I didn't respond that time, and it was a terrible book. So I thought maybe this time, you know, I'll respond and give you information. Maybe it would be a better book, you know. And you watch, you can see all the way through it till close to the end when Trump, I think for quite a bit of that time period, he thought he was charming Bob Woodward.
Oh, yeah,
had
no
him
doubt.
wrapped around his finger, right?
Well, I think he thinks that about everybody. Every encounter that he has, he thinks he's charming and he's fooling everybody.
So you know, so here we are. Today is not much. Tomorrow is the election. So a quick prediction. Are the two Republicans going to win? Are they going to lose? Is it going to be a split? Are both the Democrats going to lose? What do you think? And you know, there's a rally tonight. So this is what Trump's been building up to all week. Tonight at his rally in Georgia, he's going to reveal the real big blockbusters of information about this rigged election.
That sounded awesome. That sounded like that fucking movie preview guy. You know, the trailer.
In a world.
Yes, exactly. That was pretty good.
In a world where Donald Trump is president, and there's a rally in Georgia before. What is going on tomorrow? Tomorrow's the election. Tomorrow's the Georgia.
So what
runoff.
are we going to say about this? I really have. I
can't. Following it?
Well, not really. Other than I'm following the circus around it. I don't have any of the information as to where these candidates are standing or what the odds are. But you know, in the spirit of the show, let's make a wager.
By all rights, both Ossoff and Warnock, the Democrats, should lose. You know,
why are you saying that? Because why? That's what the poll says.
Because remember how this worked, right? Nobody got 50% of the vote, right, in these two races. So there were other Republican candidates. This is a jungle primary. So there were in both races, there were two other Republicans running as well as the Democrats. So for the one with Loeffler, that's Warnock, the African-American preacher guy. And he ran against Loeffler and another Republican. So if you take all the votes that went for the other Republican and didn't go to Loeffler and assume that they're not going to, like, if they voted for the other Republican candidate, they're probably not going to vote for Warnock. So if those votes are going to go to Loeffler, then she should wipe them out, right? And it's really the same story on the Ossoff Perdue thing, except Perdue is he's so overtly, well, both of them are the most repulsive kind of Republicans. You know, Ossoff is a 70-year-old, you know.
Is there any Republican that you like?
Yeah, they're dead mostly. I mean, right now there's Ben Sass, there's Flake, Jeff Flake. There was McCain. You know, so yeah, most of the ones I like are dead. I kind of like Romney. So you know,
what are we saying that both of these Republicans are going to win?
I think they very possibly will. Although, so what I'm saying is, by rights, they should be. Yeah, I don't know. So I'm just going to go out on a limb here and give you a chance. I'm not betting any money on this, so don't go there. I'm just going to give you a chance to laugh at me on our next podcast because we'll know by then. hopefully we'll know by then.
Well, that was the thing I was going to ask you.
They're going to win. They're going to win.
How fucked up is this going to be? Is it going to be like the presidential election that we're not going to know?
I don't know. I mean, I think that Trump has done his best to be as big a problem for Georgia politics as he can possibly be. He hasn't helped those candidates to as far as I can see. I think, Perdue has been just kind of running around like a chicken with his head cut off, trying to either distance himself from Trump or to, not contradict him. I mean, it's got to be hard for any Republican to listen to the drivel coming out of Trump's mouth about this election and then somehow try to figure some way to, be a politician and not really answer it. But I mean, because everybody knows everything Trump is saying. I mean, you've got to read this transcript,
I don't know.
Dude.
I don't know how much of an influence he's going to have on this race. I mean, the people in Georgia have said from the very beginning, the Republicans have said, we don't want you down here. We don't need your help. Don't make this worse for us. But I don't know. I mean, I think obviously
he's been shit talking the state government.
He has, but the best case scenario
for a month
is that, but no one listens to this guy. I mean, clearly that was, I think, the agenda. That's what the majority of Americans wanted, right? He lost his job over it. So, I mean, do we really think that he's going to have an influence in Georgia?
Trump?
Yeah, I don't think so. But I think the best case scenario is that the Republicans win, therefore they hold the Senate, and then we have this, diversified government where the crazy liberal left policies and agendas from the Democrats don't get pushed through. I think you need to have, a bit of a sounding board and some checks and balances. So
let me ask you then, Travis, if they hold the Senate, then all they got to do is win one of these races to hold it. So they don't even have to win both of them. But so if they hold the Senate, what do you want to see then from the Senate for the next 2 years? So what do you want to see from the Republican-controlled Senate for the next 2 years with the Biden administration? Do you want to see cooperation so we can get things that need to be done? Or do you want to see the Republicans just completely be obstructionists and just do everything they did the way they did it with Obama? Is that what would you like to see?
I think it depends. If I wouldn't go into any situation where I would intentionally want to be an obstructionist. I wouldn't want to see that from our Republicans in the Senate or anywhere else. But I think you do that if the ideas and the policies that are trying to get passed are so fucking crazy that you have no choice. So yes, do I want the spirit of compromise? Of course. But one thing like go back to the Republicans and Obamacare, repeal and replace, and we've been over that. Well, they never had a plan to replace. I think the plan all along was just to repeal and then maybe figure out if they never had to come up with a plan to replace it. But clearly people saw through that there was no plan to replace it. Not anything that people could get behind. If it was anything, it was a version of the old insurance policies that existed before Obamacare, which, of course, we now know would have left out whatever the number is, 20, 30 million people without insurance. And the people who were behind that were thinking, all right, well, maybe my premiums will go down like they were before all this. So listen, I'm not looking to make things worse for people, but I do think a lot of the policies that the Democrats are proposing and the things that they ran on are dangerous for this country, and I don't want to see those things get passed. So if it takes the Republicans to control the Senate to stop that, I'm all for it. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer to your question. I mean, if you give me specifics, but I think the other thing that's really broken in our fucking government, which is why we have these issues, and I really was kind of out of the news while I was on vacation. I mean, I was trying not to get eaten by sharks, and really the only thing that I read was on this Hillary Baldwin thing, this fake Spanish accent. Do you know that story?
Hilaria.
No, it's Hillary Baldwin. She's not from Spain.
Let's not confuse the audience, right? We're not talking about Hillary Clinton. Yeah,
no, we're talking about Hillary Baldwin.
Yeah,
that was about the only thing I read.
Here's what I'm going to tell you about faking an accent. Okay, it doesn't turn out well.
It doesn't.
Look at Madonna.
Well, you had asked me. You had brought up a woman a couple of podcasts ago that I didn't know the name. I hadn't heard of it. but it was, you said there was a woman who was jailed. She was the CEO of this company, and she was jailed for defrauding.
Yeah, it's the company's name was Theranos.
Yes, and the woman's name was Elizabeth Holmes. And she, turns out, has a phony accent too.
Do you know? Yeah, I didn't know that.
She puts
what
on,
kind of accent?
Well, it's not an accent as it is more of an affect. She puts on this really deep man voice. Yes. Deeper than your movie trailer voice.
Yes, she lowers her voice, and she purposely lowers it a couple of octaves.
She does. And the whole, that her strategy is that, people with deeper voices respect women more, and, certainly a position of a CEO of a company.
Yeah, that's not going to help her in her fraud conviction.
Well, did you go listen to some of those tapes where you could actually hear, she has this natural speaking voice? And in this day and age, everything is recorded, especially when you're a public figure like that. So she has this fake accent, and so does this fucking Hillary Baldwin. What's up with these broads?
And Hillary Baldwin is
Alec Baldwin's wife.
Yeah. So, I mean, other than being kind of a funny celebrity story, who gives a shit?
Yes, that's I don't read celebrity gossip at all. I could give two shits.
But that's good on vacation. That's the kind of thing
you need smut. Read, right? You need smut.
Yeah. And I didn't send you any. Look, you noticed I didn't send you anything. I didn't text you anything about any political stuff. I didn't send you any little memes.
Hey, no, I'm all for it. But I was fascinated by that story because when you go and you're like, all right, let me see what this is about, and you can find the clips of somebody being phony. That's, I think, the hypocrisy of a lot of the demise of people, and we have a lot of hypocrisy in government. So.
You know who one of her big supporters, so one of the guys that one of the people that came over and worked for Theranos early on is the grandson of Weinberger. And that's all I can think of his last name. So this Theranos, right, with this Elizabeth Holmes.
Yeah.
So Theranos, one of the early employees that went to work for them was the grandson of the ex-secretary of defense. I want to say Herbert Weinberger. He was Bush's secretary of defense, not Cheney, right? Not the vice president,
right?
So one of the reasons why this gal, this Elizabeth Holmes, was able to stay afloat so long and keep getting investor money and stuff is a lot of her employees were like, they weren't just employees, they were like believers, right?
Like the religious cult?
Well, of the fact that they were going to do something great for the medical, for people,
humanity,
right?
And whatever they offered.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That they were going to break that they were convinced, a lot of them were convinced that the only reason why this technology hadn't broken through already was because the big pharma and the big companies, Quest Diagnostic and stuff like that, didn't want it to break through, right? Because they won't make as much money if people can go in and just pop down a little pinprick of blood and get 250 tests. So he talked it up to his grandfather, Henry Weinberger. I'm going to change his name every time. I can't remember.
That's all right.
He was he was like 80 or something, right? But he's still real connected. And so that gave that kind of a person, and so she went and met with him because his grandson told her how great his boss was and what a visionary she was and all this shit, right? And so he jumped on board. Yeah, this sounds great. And he just bought everything she said because, so you've seen her now. You've seen pictures of her.
Yeah,
heard her
no,
talk.
I watched some videos. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like mesmerizing. She's like Svengali,
I thought
right?
she's fucking annoying. I couldn't stand listening to her.
Oh, I know.
I wouldn't buy anything from her.
She never even graduated, college, right? She dropped out of, what was it? Harvard, Yale? I don't know, whatever the fuck it was. And even that.
We shouldn't wipe out her student loan debts.
I know, really. All right, so you went and looked at Theranos. That's good. Yeah,
I watched that.
Crazy that day.
I know.
Did you see the thing on HBO or whatever it was?
No.
The special, or you just look it up online?
I just looked it up online because
okay,
it didn't even resonate with me. I was looking up this fake Hillary Baldwin, and then somebody posted a link to a video with like a montage of fake her going in and out of her accent. And because listen, you got to mix it up. It's airplane crash videos.
Right.
It's
this is YouTube.
This is YouTube. Trump clips. I'm searching for stuff, and then I come across this Hillary Baldwin, and then when I'm looking for fake accents, that's when this Elizabeth Holmes comes up. So then I went down that rabbit hole.
I had forgotten that contention that she purposely lowered her voice when she spoke to her people, when she made videos. And because there were a lot in the HBO special, you see her talk a lot when she's not doing that too, right? So, yeah, it's kind of trippy. So,
well, that was so that was my reading, and then I was, like I said, trying to survive shark attacks. The day I left, there was a fucking shark attack where I normally swim.
Wow,
at A Bay on the Big Island.
How far was the guy out?
It was a woman.
Yeah.
And she was swimming, and it was close, like within a couple 100 yards. And it's a really shallow bay, and the waves break way out there, and you can snorkel there, and I often do that. And the goddamn, yellow helicopter flies by. I'm having breakfast. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then you hear all the sirens, and then we hear people talking, and sure enough, it was a woman. At first, I think it said she was paddleboarding, but I'm pretty sure she was swimming.
Yeah.
And it was a fucking tiger shark.
Wow.
And gnarled her ankle. She survived.
Do you swim with no shirt on so that your sleeve is
yes, I'm
visible?
I'm baiting the sharks.
No, that should confuse them. It's you can get a wetsuit that is like multicolored, weird design that's supposed to not attract them at all, right?
Yeah, who's going to try that? These fuckers are hungry. There haven't been that many people, certainly in Hawaii, because you can't get there. No one's going on vacation. No one's in the water. They're looking for extra food, and they're attacking us.
Wow.
So
I hate to hear about sharks, but it doesn't matter because, the last 2 times I went to Hawaii, I didn't even go in the ocean, right? I mean, I think I went out there, last trip last year, I did not swim at the beach. I didn't snorkel.
Well, when
I planned on it this time, but
there was, a good amount of people there over the holidays, like I said. But when you go in March, I think that over these next couple of months, it's going to be kind of quiet because things are going to be quiet here on the West Coast and lockdowns and all this shit.
Yeah.
So when you go, I think it will still be relatively quiet in the islands, and there won't be that many people in the water. So if you do go, just be careful because those fuckers are going to come looking for you. They're hungry and they're looking for us, Mike.
Yeah, I my timeshare on Maui is some of the best beach snorkeling in Hawaii. That whole Kaanapali Beach, and the farther north you go up that beach, the better it is. So when I say beach snorkeling, I'm talking about beach coral. So you swim out right from the beach, and you're right above it, right? Exactly. As opposed to having to go out to Molokini or something, which is wall coral, right? Which is different. And so, I haven't gone the last couple of times. I'm trying to remember why but this time I have a snorkel and fins and a mask of my own.
But these fuckers,
I'm going to bring them. Yeah, I don't go out that far. I'm not going.
You don't have to go that far.
Yards.
That's what I'm saying. And it's the tigers. The tigers in Hawaii, they're nasty.
Yeah,
they're the ones you got to look out for. So I made it all the way through until the last day, and I heard about that. And I'm like, God damn it.
You swam in the ocean every day, or
a lot of those days, yeah, and at that spot.
Wow.
So
how far away is your mom's place from the beach?
Well, that's at A Bay. She's down kind of near Kona, so
you gotta drive.
It's quite a ways, but I mean there are attacks all over. So when you're there, you're kind of like on shark attack alerts. That was the extent of my reading. Trying to figure out what what's happening with these things. But the other thing,
I think it's still pretty. The amount of shark attacks is still pretty damn low. I think that's unfortunate. There was one while you were there. But it'll be a while before you get back, so it should be okay.
The other thing I, of course, was reading is, the stimulus plans and everything that was back and forth and going to be passed and not passed and all the bullshit that's in it. So it's.
I got mine. You get yours already?
No.
No,
I don't qualify. I'm a millionaire.
Oh, that's right. You're not going to qualify. That's right. You make too much money. Ay. Sorry.
So what is everybody got their money by what 12/31?
I don't know, Debbie. Whenever I sent you that text that day, I said, "Hey, I got my money." Mm-hmm. I sent it to you on WhatsApp. That was the day it showed up in my bank account. 4 more years. So
that was not what Trump was pushing for 2000.
2000, yeah, that would have been.
Which is kind of a surprise, right? Isn't that? That
would have been.
That's what the Democrats wanted, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know what he's. I don't get it. But I mean, it's just more Trump lying bullshit, right?
What do you mean? He really didn't want that?
No. Look, Travis, if he wanted it, he could have participated in the activities leading up to the package being passed. But he never participated. He never told anybody that he wanted $2,000, and so he waits till the thing is passed. And everybody's on the verge of, the people that really need it. Do I need it? I don't really need it. But for a lot of people, that money is going to be a lifeline, right? And not just the money, it's the unemployment. It had already stopped. I mean, people's unemployment was stopped. Not the extra, that stopped in July. Just the basic unemployment for a lot of these people was going to stop. So he waits till that is about to expire, till all of that unemployment is going to run out on the 31st of December. And then he says, oh, no, we got to have $2,000.
Yeah, that to me was more of a play to try to look.
Oh yeah,
I don't know, more presidential or something.
Who does it help? I don't know. I mean, the only possible thing that if that just wasn't random senility or stupid, fucked up nihilism, then the only thing it could really be was some twisted idea in his head that's going to help him.
I think
get back in the race.
I think that is possible.
So we were talking a little bit ago about how you'd like to see the Senate stay in Republican control, and I'm okay with that. I'm not looking to recreate this fucking mess in California at the federal level necessarily. So I mean, look, there's a possibility. I mean, obviously McConnell was a racist fuck and hated Obama because he was black. That's all pretty obvious.
Are we writing that in the evidence book?
No, just take it for what it's worth. So he has in the past and could possibly in the future work with Joe Biden, right? So maybe there's some modicum of cooperation for the good of the country.
Well, if that's the case, what's going to happen when Biden kicks the bucket and he's got to work with Harris?
Well, I mean, I can't speak to what do we call that? Hypotheticals, right? Hypotheticals. So let's assume we got a little bit of time. Here's my point: if the Republicans are less of a batch of assholes than they've been since Obama was elected, and frankly, through this whole thing with Trump, he didn't get anything. He got very little passed, right, legislatively.
So where are we with what is it?
Well, if they can get through this first 2 years without being as bad as I think they're going to be, then okay, then I'm okay with the divided government. But I swear to God, and I'll be in a position by this time to go campaign full time. Then if they don't, then we need to flip the motherfucking Senate in 2022 and flip it hard.
What if what I was going to ask you is, you said these first 2 years, are they going to get a chance to start on these first 2 years? What's up with, am I reading, and I think you mentioned we have 11 senators who are leading the charge to protest the Electoral College vote casting.
You have 140 Republican House members.
But there's some senators on the board now too, right?
Oh God, it's hard to keep up with.
I think your buddy is leading the charge. Your favorite amongst them. Isn't Ted Cruz? Yeah, isn't he leading the charge?
Fucking simp.
What's the end goal here? I don't understand this. What do they hope?
Their end goal?
Yeah, what do they think that what?
They're sycophants to Trump. They think somehow they're playing both sides of the coin, or whatever phrase you want to use. I don't know what Cruz is doing. I always thought he was terrible, and he hasn't gotten any less terrible. and he is somehow. I mean, Trump asked him to be the one that pled the case to the Supreme Court if they picked up his thing to overturn the election, and he said yes. Not that mattered, because he knew they were never going to pick it up, so he had nothing to lose. But how he, after Trump shit talked his wife and called her ugly and all this stuff, and accused his father of being involved in the Kennedy assassination, I just like, what the fuck? Okay, so forget all that. I mean, that's just all nonsense. But I think one of the last things we talked about in one of our last podcasts was the lawsuit, right? That 160 Republican House members signed on to, and 40 let's see, how many was it?
Yeah, but what's 20? The lawsuit though? No one no one's hearing this lawsuit.
No, because it got turned down. The Supreme Court said we're not doing that.
Right. But, so what's I don't understand the thinking. What do they think they're going to do?
Well, they think that somehow this is going to help them not get primaried out of their next reelection campaign. Right. So here's what Trump is telling them all, and here's what they're all talking about between themselves. Trump's not going anywhere. He's still going to run the fucking party, which is pathetic on the face of it. And while he's running the party for the next 4 years, if you cross him, if you don't support him in this insane election fraud nonsense, anti-democratic, and we're going to save this for another podcast, but this stuff is very. So I'm not going to use the word seditious.
Use it.
Because I think that the sedition laws all got tossed out. So you just have to you just have to be convicted of treason. So
how do you make that connection, by the way? Is it because he's complaining that it's a rigged system and that he's calling for
connection? What connection?
Your favorite word, your new favorite word, sedition. Is it because he's calling for an uprising or what?
Well, here's the thing. For democracy to work, you have to have forbearance and you have to have mutual tolerance. So two things. Forbearance means that you're a politician. You have certain legal powers, depending on what you are, right? You're the Secretary of State. You're the Attorney General. You're the President of the United States. You're a senator. Whatever you are, you have certain legal powers. Forbearance is when you choose not to exercise all of your legal powers to their utmost ability, right? And you say, okay, I'm going to forbear on this issue and I'm not going to subpoena you, or I'm not going to do whatever. The Democratic controlled House could have engaged in forbearance and not brought impeachment against Trump. Okay. So the main thing that we've lost in this time of this highly divided politics is we are losing forbearance, and democracy cannot exist without forbearance. The other thing democracy cannot exist without is a mutual, let me get the term right, mutual tolerance, right? You have to acknowledge that your opponents have a right to be your opponents, and that should they win elections, they are legitimate. If you begin to degrade that and lose that, that will also mean the end of democracy. So without those two things, you're going to lose. Okay. And so here's my point. Let me just see if I can sum it up. Without those two things in play, and so anybody that is engaged in actively stopping forbearance and mutual tolerance, and that's everybody that has participated in this sham of election fraud, that is anti-democracy. That is anti-American democracy. That is treason. Or, a little less strenuous term, that is sedition. So actively doing things that will make it impossible for democracy, whether they're working within their legal limits or not, everybody's taking their shit to the max.
Does that
make sense?
It does make sense, and I don't disagree with the examples that you gave. But I also am not challenging the result of the elections. We've talked about this, but I do think that, you have to be careful when you have one side who, you call it a compromise in democracy. Democracy has to work when both sides respect the other side and acknowledge that, there is an opponent that could ultimately be the victor of an election. Mm-hmm. But I think Trump is just a big crybaby. No, I really do. And that's the issue. And that's, he's trying to make this whatever worse. Does he really think he can overturn it? I don't know. I don't think so. But you do have to wonder, and this is the conspiracy theorist in me, not about this issue, but we've talked about moments in the past and periods of history where you have had authoritarian parties who have tried to oust the other group, and then when they try to complain about it or raise hell or call attention to it, then they're silenced. So, listen, in this case, maybe things will all go back to normal when we get rid of Trump, but
not silenced. He hasn't been silenced.
Well, I know he's still the president for another couple weeks,
but he hasn't. But what I'm saying is, I agree with everything you just said, except the difference is here. Nobody is silencing him, right? He has no way. And I don't see anything happening that is going to prevent him from continuing to say whatever he wants to say. But the difference is, Travis, if what you want to say is seditious, and if it is anti-democracy, if it is going to make forbearance impossible by the elected officials, then we have to take that for what it is. When it becomes treason, then it's treason.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know that we're there yet with this issue because, well...
No. And look, you asked, why is he doing this? Why is he pumping this election fraud? And why are his Republican cohorts, who fucking know better, right? They all know he's insane. Why are they all doing it?
Do you think he's really insane? Do you think he's a stupid man?
I'm starting to. Well, I think he's mentally. Yeah, he's a sick fuck, and he always has been, and he's worse now.
There's that. He doesn't make good decisions. He's not a good communicator. But do you think he's stupid? Do you think he's dull? Does he have a low IQ?
Yeah, I think he does. I think he is dull. I mean, I think he's devious. He's conniving. He's evil. He's narcissistic. He is narcissistic in the extreme. I think he's a pathological liar.
I think there's all of that's true.
All of that stuff is, all the best politicians are to some degree, but it is a matter of degree. And you really need to read this transcript.
I have some of the clips of it here. You want
play something.
Let me see. I got a bunch. Let me see where we are.
Play any one, because
we'll kind of play these and you can comment on them.
We have won this election in Georgia based on all of this. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, Brad. Having a correct, the people of Georgia are angry. And these numbers are going to be repeated on Monday night, along with others that we're going to have by that time, which are much more substantial even. And the people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
So let's put that into context just a little bit. So Trump's rants in this hour-plus phone call he had.
You're not kidding, by the way. You really had that memorized.
Yeah, you could see me mouthing it.
Yeah,
as he was doing it, right? So that's a clip, but to be fair, that clip has been played many times. And the part and that's Ratzenberger, if I'm saying it, Ratzenberger, whatever. He's the Republican Secretary of State, I think. And I think his response there of Georgia, I think his response was still yet, it didn't come like that, right? The way that clip is done, it's like Trump says that, and then Ratzenberger immediately responds, well, Mr. President, the problem is your data is incorrect. He does say that, but it's farther down. Trump goes on and says a lot more shit that's wrong before Ratzenberger comes on and says, Mr. President, your data, the problem is your data.
Well, what's interesting about that is it really isn't data. It's more just what he thinks and what he feels, which has been the claim since the very beginning.
I don't know if you have this clip, but there's another clip where Trump is going to say, Ratzenberger says, Mr. President, when you rely on social media, the problem is they can say whatever they want. And he goes, no, Brad, no, it's not social media. It's Trump media. It's Trump media. In fact, if I should have had this.
Isn't he planting the seed? Because isn't that his post presidential career? He's going to start a media channel. I got more. We can start. And
play more. I'm going to hear more.
Now, do you think it's possible that they shredded ballots in Fulton County? Because that's what the rumor is. And also that Dominion took out machines. That Dominion is really moving fast to get rid of their
keep it going.
Machinery. Do you know anything about that?
Does Brad respond?
This is Ryan, Germany. No, Dominion has not moved any machinery out of Fulton County. We're having.
Well, but have they moved? Have they moved the inner parts of the machines?
The inner parts.
And replaced them with other parts?
All right, stop it for a second. So what was the guy's name? Ryan, Germany.
Germany, yeah.
Right. So I don't know exactly his position. He's part of the Georgia state government. And this thing, so they're shredding ballots. Okay, well, they've gone over that and over that and over that. And it's, they have it's the
You know what it sounds like? Do you relate to this so closely because this is the same rant you would go on when you would lose at slots at the Indian casinos, that they changed the chip, the motherboard in the slot machine right before you came, so you would lose and have to give all your money.
The inner parts out.
Where does he get this?
That's something I don't know, and that's not something I heard before. I heard the rant about Dominion, right? And so here's what he's claiming in this whole fucking call.
Where does he get this idea?
I lost Georgia by 11,779 votes. So, Brad, I want you to find me 11,780 votes. So there'll be one extra. I mean, he literally says that to him.
Yeah, but is he saying that because he believes that 11,000 and change votes are actually there for him and that they were destroyed? Or is he saying make them up out of thin air?
He's saying there's hundreds of thousands of votes for him. And so he brings up other things, and then he goes back and he says, well, Brad, we don't really, we didn't bring up Dominion, which is the voting machine company, who's suing the fuck out of him, by the way. And so, and rightfully so, they should be suing. He has disparaged them beyond belief. And so, they're going, look, there's no evidence of any problem with, we hand counted every vote that was counted by the Dominion machines. We hand counted it, human beings.
But where does this allegation come from? He's saying the Dominion machines are fucked up. The innards, they've taken out the innards. No, they haven't. Well, no, or how about this? How about that? And they keep saying no. So where did that claim come from? And these are his people, right? These are Republican Party. Hey, listen, I'm supposed to disagree with you, right? But I don't see what the fuck's going on here.
Oh no, I mean, it's like I think that what we're watching is the entire Republican Party, all of the elected officials that aren't going anywhere on the 20th of this month, letting him just destroy them and what's left of the Republican Party. I mean, this is not good, Travis. I know that I mean, what is your position? I don't want to put words in your mouth. You think that the two-party system is done and not working.
Well, right? Let me just interject here. I don't think it's a good idea to have just two parties, and specifically, I think these two parties have lost their way, and they don't represent the best path forward for this country. I really, really believe that. So whether or not it's the fact that it's these two parties and how they have evolved over the decades, or if it's the American people, the growth of this country, the change in culture, ideas, values, all of those things, if there's just, it is the ultimate melting pot, right? Which was essentially the dream all along. So if we've reached that pinnacle, then maybe we've outgrown a two-party system. So yeah,
the Galactic Empire.
The Galactic Empire
is coming apart at the edges. That's the theory here. For all of our fans that are going to watch Foundation, I don't have any money in that show or anything. Wish I did.
We got to contact them for advertising.
I know. I mean, we are talking about. By the way, if anybody from Foundation is listening to us, we are talking about I will be bringing this up multiple times.
When does this show come out?
I don't have the exact date in front of me. It's it should be coming out. It's like spring or something of 21.
What do you got to pay for Apple TV Plus? It's like
Debbie
$5 or something.
to it. Yeah, it's not too expensive. It's one of the cheaper ones. And Debbie subscribed to. We have Apple TVs. We have a couple of them, right? We so for two of our TV locations, we have AT&T, and we stream AT&T because it's an app.
Yeah,
and we stream AT&T for all the local channels and everything that's on that platform, and then we stream, I'm going to forget them all now. CBS, All Access, the Peacock, what's the big one? Netflix and Prime, and we have all of those, right? And so Apple TV is right there on our Apple TV. So she went ahead. Apple TV has a little bit of original programming, and two of the things. One is going to be Foundation. Am I getting that wrong? Is that going to be on something else? But the other thing, I've already watched this season of something called Tehran, which is a great, modern day Tehran spy.
Where is that now? Apple TV?
That's on Apple TV Plus.
So this is their own original content?
Tehran. And then the other one that we just started watching is a remake of The Stand. Are you familiar with The Stand?
The Stephen King?
Right. So that's a huge book, like 4,000 page book, great book. One of his all-time classic book.
Never made it through that one.
Oh, you should, you know what? You should go buy the unedited.
I had it at one point, never made it through. I made it through it. That was all I could do.
Here's the thing. When Stephen King first wrote it, they cut 400 pages out of The Stand. When they went to edit it, to publish it, they're like, yeah, Stephen, we're going to cut these 400 pages out. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, that's 400 pages that we're not going to be able to get enough money for to make a book that big. So, we're going to cut these 400 pages. And so he's like, well, fuck. And so then when he got huge, right, he went back to him and said, hey, guess what? You're putting the fucking pages back in. So you want to read the full unabridged original version of The Stand. And it's great reading. I mean, it may, I know you like to read the guns, germs, and blood type books with the heavy
I like to
read.
mix it up.
Yeah, and so for just pure, The Stand is one of the best, And of all the Stephen, I've read just about every Stephen King book until, say, 10 years ago. I kind of stopped because they all end the same. They don't have endings. But and fantasy or whatever you want to call that, her horror, not as interesting to me as some. So The Stand is going to be good. I watched the first episode on Apple Plus, and it was pretty good. There was a big multi-part miniseries that was done a few years back, 10 or 15,
I remember.
20 years ago. That was decent too. We'll see if this is any different. So I'm a big fan of that. And I'll verify by the next podcast whether Foundation is on Apple or not, because now I'm starting.
Well, yeah, here's the tweet that out.
Here's the problem. There are too many platforms. But
that's by design, because finally, because here's why. When there was cable and then when there was satellite, they all tried to bundle all that shit together and give us the channels that we don't want to watch and that nobody's watching, but we had to get it just to get the tier package that we wanted.
Right.
And finally, a lot of these companies got smart when digital streaming came around, and they were offering their content directly, like HBO. You could buy the app, HBO Go. Netflix, obviously, we remember when Netflix would ship us the DVDs.
Right.
And that was the whole thing. So now with... I think, and also with DirecTV, they fucked up because they sold to AT&T, and AT&T is a disaster of a company. With their customer service is fucking terrible, and they have just gutted
Uverse.
Yeah, and they have destroyed DirecTV. So it's wide open, and then of course you have this juggernaut like Disney who decides to go direct. And I think I read a report that they had a 3 or 4 year projection because they just launched last year.
Right.
That they were going to have whatever it was, 80 million subscribers in 4 years. They've already almost surpassed that number in a year.
They've got 10 Star Wars shows coming.
I know.
10 new, the Mandalorian. Did you guys watch that?
No.
First off, let me ask you: you didn't cough up. You're a billionaire. You didn't cough up and buy Disney for your kids?
No, we have Disney.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because by the way,
The Mandalorian.
No, I don't have a lot of time to watch it. I mean, I barely have time to get back into reading. But with
stop and smell the roses. Stop and smell the
roses. All that stuff, like with Disney, they were like in the old days, they would release their movies, the kids' movies, the animated shows. Mm-hmm. And something I learned later on as a parent that they apparently only do that at certain times of the year. It's not as if you wanted to go buy something, it was available. They would release them at certain times, and they would build up this huge demand, and then people would buy them. Mm-hmm. And then they had a lot of their content on other platforms, like through Apple TV, you could rent or buy through iTunes or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then when they launched their own stuff, it was available direct from them. In some cases, it was part of the subscription. They had original content. Remember, what's the dude? Lin-Manuel Hamilton.
Yeah, Hamilton's on there.
So that was released straight to Disney. Who knows what the fuck they paid for that?
Well, here and here's the thing, right? Hamilton would have went to theaters, but there were no theaters for anybody to go to.
Right.
So, and then the big release here while you were out of town was Wonder Woman.
I was going to say the big release is Cobra Kai season 3,
which was Cobra Kai season 3. I hear that's good.
It's great.
So
it's fucking great.
I haven't watched Cobra Kai. Wonder Woman released on what? Disney? Is that what? No. Netflix.
I thought it's getting terrible reviews.
Yeah, it sucked. I watched it.
Well, that's the Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I could watch Gal Gadot, wash the dishes. I really don't care, but the movie itself, and she had the original Wonder Woman movie, or they had it. There's a Warner release,
and she was good.
Warner just bought HBO, right? You get all that. So this HBO Now. No, what the fuck is
I think it's HBO Go. Maybe it's now. I don't know.
Is that the new one? Wait,
I don't know.
What was the other HBO? There was a split off. There was an app for a while.
There is also, I think, Cinemax. So there's HBO Max. Those two merged.
Yeah, shit. Oh, fuck. What is the new HBO? It's HBO. I don't have it all in front of me. I can't remember. HBO was bought by Warner Brothers.
So the original Gal Gadot Wonder Woman was on Warner Brothers, and it was good, and now it's terrible.
Well, it's on whoever's releasing all the DC movies, but I believe it's a Warner Brothers release. And so they brought it on Christmas Day straight to HBO and to the theaters, right? So they call that mirroring. And so previous to this, no theatrical release movie had gone straight to one of the channels, and to the theaters. So,
but that's why was it terrible? Just because it sucked?
Oh, because and there's a lot of drivel here about, hey, it wasn't really an empowering movie for women. I mean, you got two.
Does it have to be? Does every fucking movie have to have a message? And
it doesn't.
Can't offend anybody. Can't it just be a god? It's a fucking comic book.
It could be better. Here's the thing. You know who Kristen Wiig is? And she's one of my favorite, actors.
She was great in that one movie.
Yeah, Saturday Night Live.
Bridesmaids.
So she's been good in everything. And here's the thing. So those are the two main characters, Gal Gadot and Kristen Wiig. Gal Gadot just wants her man back. That's what the whole fucking movie about. She wants Chris Pine to come back to life. He was killed in the Second World War.
Well, what's wrong with that? She spends
the whole movie getting him back and then not wanting them to let him go. In fact, she needs her man so bad. She was going to let the fucking world go to hell in a handbasket until she finally.
So she wasn't doing her duties as Wonder Woman and protecting the world because she was off trying to get her man back.
Why can't I have this? Why can't I have this one thing?
Why can't superheroes take a fucking break?
There you go.
From superheroing.
And Kristen Wiig, she just wanted to be powerful so she could date more interesting men. That's it. That's the whole fucking movie.
I don't know. I think I might watch that.
It was a blood stain. Trust me, the whole thing was just.
Are you in this camp because it was not empowering for women? Is that why she was chasing the man?
Here's what it is. I heard somebody define that when I watched the movie. I'm like, wow, this was weak. This was just, the story was weak, everything. Because the Wonder Woman movie was fantastic. And her appearances in the Justice League, great. Those were great. She was great. Everything in this movie sucks shit through a straw.
But let me reverse it here. What you just described, and I haven't seen it, and I probably won't watch it, but isn't that like the premise of the original Christopher Reeve Superman? I don't know if it was number 1 or number 2, when he wants to be converted to a regular human and he goes in that stupid ice chamber and he becomes human so he could live with Lois Lane, and he just wants to be... So that's like a combination of Gal Gadot and Kristen Wiig's storyline. And it was great when it was Christopher Reeve and he was chasing the broad.
FYI, because I know you're not really a comic guy, that movie was heavily panned for that very reason, because it lacked the plot.
It was a great movie. Superman. You didn't like that movie?
Nobody wants to see Superman give up his powers for Lois Lane.
Exactly.
Nobody.
It was terrible.
It was a terrible movie.
But it got good reviews, and it wasn't knocked because he was... sensitive, and he wanted to be with the woman.
Well, that's the knock, and along with that, it just kind of sucked. I mean, the story was just weak. So it was really just, it was such a big deal. It's coming out. It's going to be right here on my TV on HBO or whatever the fuck. And HBO, we'll see. They may have shot themselves on the foot. You know how many people they pissed off with that? How many directors and things, lives that they ruined with that decision? But here's the reason why HBO made that decision to release that movie, which is very popular, to HBO, to some streaming platform, and to theaters at the same time, is because that's what the public wants.
That's what the
customer wants, right? And so there's a guy there at HBO and Warner Brothers. He's actually at Warner Brothers, who understands this, and we'll have to see. All the big producers and directors in Hollywood or in the movie making business, they may go to Warner Brothers and say, "Bring that motherfucker's head to me on a stick." Because
but ultimately, if you can monetize your product, and if you can get it in the hands of people in a way that it's paying for itself and making money, then who cares?
Look, here's how we've talked about this extensively. I know we're probably coming to what we should be the cutoff time here, but you are looking for disruptors, right, in these industries, and so what has happened? So what did we say in past episodes makes an industry ripe for disruption? Unsatisfied customers and lack of innovation, and prices going up with no real justification.
But what's interesting about that, though, is I have not been to the movies in 10 years. I think I said that. But people still go to the movies. What does it cost to go to the movies these days? What's a ticket?
For a regular theater, which is really just an overrated rat-infested popcorn stand with greasy floors, is like $25
for one ticket.
Well, to get a ticket, to get your overpriced popcorn, to get something to drink, so you don't, so you got something to throw at the rat when he scurries across your feet. The theaters out here are in pretty decent shape, and if you want to pay more, you can go to a theater with cushy chairs. But here's the response from the theaters, right? Our chairs are more cushy now. Fuck you. You've had 50 years to fix your business. Don't cry to me if HBO has snatched it all out from under you, because here's the thing. People will pay more, Travis. You would pay $45 in a heartbeat to take you and Megan to a movie theater that was some kind of a decent experience.
Yeah, and here's what's decent. I want to go to a private screening, and what I mean by that is 2 chairs, me and my wife.
Like your house.
I want a lounge chair with someone to come rub my feet. I want a butler that I can have them bring me food and bring me beverages. And then I want, nobody behind me, nobody in front of me. I want privacy, and that's what I want.
Is this on Mars or
no? But you asked me what my movie-going experience would be like. That's what I would want.
Well, they're probably not going to drag your ass back in the theater no matter what they do, right? Because they're not doing that.
Yeah, they're not.
They might do something close to that, but they're not doing that exact thing.
Well, who wants to do that? Everybody nowadays has their fancy TV and their sound system and all the shit that makes it comfortable. And why do you want to? Really, for me, why I don't go I don't want to be in a crowded place where it's noisy and people are on their fucking cell phones and they're interrupting people and they're talking and they're coming in and out of the aisles and I got to move. It's annoying.
Yeah, and you can. I mean, look, some of that experience, some of the bad parts of that experience, including the dirty floors and nasty. I mean, there's a reason why you never really see the lights never really get bright in the theater because you really don't want to see what you're walking through.
Yeah, it's terrible
and all that shit. So, will they fix it? I don't know, and I don't care. If I never go to another movie theater, I don't give a shit. If there's a movie theater experience that's worth doing, I'll do it. I mean, as soon as I can, when I go back to Maui, I'm going to go to the Maui Aquarium and I'm going to go into that big domed room and I'm going to see these fucking whales floating around in high definition 3D right in front of me. There's going to be a 50-foot whale floating in front of my eyes and you can't tell it from real. It's so awesome. That is a theater experience, right? I'm not saying, 3D movies suck. They never make it. And 3D TVs don't work. And 3D doesn't work. It does work for something specialized like that. But so many variations on that. They can innovate. They can do things. I think TV theaters will come out the other end of this with good food, alcohol, waiters, more than just comfy, cushy chairs. They'll be cleaner. The innovations will be better. But then we'll also be watching it from home. I mean, I got a 65-inch television set that I sit 12 feet away from. It's, it doesn't get much better. I can make this as loud as I want. And then whenever my overactive bladder tells me to, I can put the whole fucking thing on hold, right?
You can make it through a movie these days anymore.
Yeah. And I don't like missing. If I'm going to pay for it like that, I don't like missing part of it, right? So,
but also, I think movies are pretty terrible these days in the sense that, to me, I think a movie is 2 hours. It's not an hour and 20 minutes. It's not an hour and a half. It's 2 hours. Take me away. Tell me the story. Get involved. And I think that's why a lot of these shows, these Netflix series, these HBO series, everything that everyone's watching these days, people like and they gravitate towards because it's essentially one long movie, whether it's 4 episodes or 4 seasons,
Well, the Mandalorian, which is going to be, if you haven't watched it or you haven't heard about it, it's on Disney.
Yeah, I know what it is.
It's been hugely successful. And all the episodes are out. It's over. It's on Disney. It'll be there. You can rewatch as many times you want. But we were hanging every week to see the new one. As soon as it came on, we stopped whatever we were doing to watch it. Kind of like old-time television, right? But this was going to be a movie for Netflix, right? And they just said, hey, listen, instead of a movie, you're going to make 8 45-minute episodes. And you're going to be able to get much deeper into the characters and do things. And that's just the way it's going to go. And there's a whole bunch of that shit going on.
Well, there used to be a time where that was a negative stigma, that it was the movies versus television mentality. And if you were an actor in TV, that you were a lesser grade than in the movies.
That's gone.
It's gone, yeah. And by the way, the movies are worse. The tables have turned, and the shows are better.
Hey, the show that we're watching that we're really liking on the Peacock, right? We subscribe to that. We took the premium version of Peacock.
What is that? Channel 4?
That's the NBC. Yeah, is Yellowstone.
Oh yeah, that's great.
You seen that?
Yeah.
So we're just beginning the second season, and that's Costner, right? So always thought he was a pretty decent movie actor, right?
No, he's terrible. He's a terrible actor, but he's great in Yellowstone. It's like that's
great in Yellowstone.
What he's supposed to be. Because when he was doing do you remember Robin Hood? Talking about fake accents.
Robin
Hood. So okay, listen. I said movies need to be
Waterworld.
Movies need to be 2 hours.
Shit movies. Mailman.
His movies are like 3 or 4 hours. The Postman, Waterworld, JFK,
Dancing with Wolves.
They're all like 4 days long.
Right.
But God bless him. He's passionate, but he loses his accent. Talk about these fake accent people. You watch Robin Hood, and his accent changes throughout the film.
English.
It's like English. It's like Southern.
I've never seen it.
It was, I don't know, 89 or something. And then
cool.
You see, what else? Well, even like JFK. he's supposed to be whatever he is, the DA, Jim Garrison, and he loses his accent there.
Okay.
But anyway, he's got to
check that out.
A long history of
there's a lot of Costner movies I haven't watched.
But there's a lot of Costner movies that are shit. But he's one of these guys that everybody likes him. He's been around for so long, and we just give him the benefit of the doubt. And I have no beef with him. But Yellowstone is great, and he does a good job in it. And I think that's finally what he's supposed to play. So you'll enjoy.
So was the only movie he did that was good was the baseball movie,
Field of Dreams?
Field of Dreams. Is that the only good one?
I don't know. Probably that and The Bodyguard, maybe.
The Bodyguard. What was that with
Whitney Houston?
That cokehead Whitney Houston. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people did I just piss off with that comment about Whitney Houston? So it's all good stuff. I mean, there is just so much stuff going on, Travis. So much stuff.
Do you want to hear more of the Crybaby? I don't know. We cut
let's hear it.
No.
You sure, Ryan?
I'm sure.
That's about.
You should want to have an accurate election.
This is almost like, yelling at your kids. You need to go to bed because you didn't eat your dinner. Are you sure? Are you sure that's your answer? You're fucking negotiating with children here.
I got to give it to Ratzenberger and Germany. Those guys. There's no way I could get that through that call and listen to that dribble without going, you know what, Mr. President, go fuck yourself.
Well, I think they're they're letting him hang himself.
Well, I mean, they're hanging him by releasing his transcript. Right?
Yeah, we'll see how much of the rest of this you
Republican.
Let's do it.
We believe that we do have an accurate election.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have. Not even close. You're off by hundreds of thousands of votes.
So, without citing any evidence, I mean, that's just his MO. No, you don't. Which is kind of the way he bullies people.
In the book Rage, for our listeners, let me tell you that Bob Woodward analyzes this methodology that Trump employs concerning things that aren't true. It's just a theory that he's had since his earliest days in business, that you say things that are just simply untrue, and you just keep saying them enough until some portion of the people you're saying it to believe you. And it's a very dangerous, wrong-headed thing to do. It's, when it was just Donald Trump, the real estate loser, reality show dickwad, it didn't really hurt anybody. But as president of the United States and constantly employing that methodology, and now, employing it in regards to elections in this country is extremely dangerous. And so we talked in a past episode, the signal word here, right, is dangerous. It's not caution. It's not
warning.
It's not warning. It's fucking dangerous, right? And so,
but I don't think it is, because nobody believes him. He's at the point where, I mean, even his own people, they're just calmly letting him say what he wants to say. They're letting him hang himself, and they just come back and say, "No, you're wrong. We don't have that."
I'm going to say something about that, Travis. And I really like Jason, and I don't want to offend him. So when I say this, Jason, I'm not talking about you, but some of these nitwits that are following Trump in other parts of the country, they do believe every fucking thing he says. And yeah, some of them are just stupid. But some of them have been taken in by the sheer amount of times they keep hearing stuff. And so a doubt about the validity of American elections is creeping into this, not a majority by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, there are many places in other states, not California, where you can come up to Trump supporters and just ask them what seem like intelligent questions about, do you really believe there are hundreds of thousands of votes that were rigged in the Georgia? Oh yes, absolutely. Absolutely believe that. Yeah, this was stolen from him. Have you seen the size of his rallies? There's no way he can have rallies that size and not win that state.
Yeah, well, that's the argument the entire time. I know, and it's the same thing about, well, look at all the Trump signs in everyone's yards. How could I possibly have lost?
Right. That's right. That's what his people say.
I know, but that should be, people should be allowed to say that and think that, because we have to root them out. We have to find, it's almost like a test to see how many stupid people are out there if they believe this shit. We should give people
almost taking names.
We should, and we should track these people and give them a regular oral exam and give their response and say, hey, you're not qualified to be here.
Jason, when the Biden-Harris administration comes for you, I'm going to vouch for you and tell them that even though you mistakenly supported Trump, you're a good guy. Okay, I just want you to know that. So it'll be a little easier in California.
Do you want any more of this?
Yeah.
You know what they did, and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense. And
Yeah. You see what this is?
Huh?
You know what this is? This is Trump walking over the line. That's the line.
Well,
he's crossing there.
What I found interesting about listening to this audio is that basically he makes these claims, he just doesn't back it up.
He has no backup, no proof whatsoever.
I know. They don't buy
that
it.
happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk. But they are shredding ballots, in my opinion, based on what I've heard, and they are removing machinery, and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen, and you are letting it happen. I'm notifying you that you're letting it happen. So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
So there's your number.
Oh, God.
I like the part where he says, I'm notifying you that you let it happen. I'm notifying you. You've now been officially notified by me, the President Donald J. Trump, that you've let this happen, and it's a criminal offense, and you better get that schmuck lawyer of yours to get his shit together.
Ryan Germany. That's who he's talking to, right? Yeah, that's who Ryan Germany is, the lawyer. Oh, my God.
And I got a little bit more of this. You listened to the whole thing or read the whole hour. I'm assuming they push back on a lot of it, but this would have been his opportunity to state the evidence, and it's several times it's what I'm hearing, it's what I think, what I feel, what I've been told.
Many people tell me, many people say we've identified that as a Trump tell from the very beginning. Whenever you hear him say something like, well, many people are saying it. I mean, I don't know, but many people are telling me, many people are talking about it. Whatever it is he's talking about. That's how you can always tell it's just a fucking.
Well, in any argument, in any argument where you're trying to figure out the answer, logic and reason will tell you, challenge that. Well, this study says that. Well, what study? What evidence do you have to support what you're saying? And obviously the Supreme Court doesn't think he has anything. I think it's funny. It's laughable because, again, I'm supposed to be the guy who challenges you on this stuff, but it's just there's nothing there. I mean,
yeah, we're gonna have to wait and discuss some Biden moves once Trump is out of the picture. I will tell you that when we finish this podcast, I'm gonna go find out where I can see coverage of this rally. As much as it makes me want to throw up, I need to know what he says at this rally tonight, because there's potential for this to be.
Can we agree there's one good thing about this rally?
Okay, what is that?
That I'm assuming it's going to be a large gathering of people, which I'm totally in favor of, that we can continue to have our freedoms in this super spreading event.
Yeah. We'll see if he can maybe he can kill some other notable Republicans. I mean, he's already killed Herman Cain with his stupid ass Tulsa fiasco. And I saw some, did I read it? Did I read it? Let me think here. When Trump was Trump was in the book, Rage. Trump was telling Bob Woodward about how the Tulsa rally, where we have 1.25 million reservations for the rally. And in the stadium only seated like 30,000. So we're going to have to use this stadium next door and this parking lot. And then, we've got 1.2 million people. And then
he's very popular.
Nobody showed up, right? Nobody showed up.
Well, how many people are going to be at this rally?
Well, that's another thing I want to see.
Where is the rally? Where is it?
It's in Georgia.
Where,
I don't know what part of Georgia. I don't know. Savannah or somewhere. I
would think it wouldn't be in Atlanta, which they didn't win.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with all the geographical places. We should call Derek. He might know. So
yeah, well, when is this thing on tonight?
Yeah, it should be starting anytime now. I would
and
assume.
when
it's already 3 hours difference. It's already got to be 8:30 there.
All right, and so hopefully we know Did we ever make the wager? I don't think we did.
I wager for what?
For who's going to win this thing?
Win the election?
No, the Republican or the Democratic.
I'll go
senators.
$20 that Biden wins.
Yeah, I know. In Georgia is what I'm saying.
Oh, with Georgia. No, we're not doing that. I'm just telling you that I don't think they're going to win, but yet I have this. Here's what I never got to say. I have this weird feeling that they're going to win. I think that maybe Cheeto has shut off his fucking mouth enough to propel enough Democrats, especially black Democrats in Georgia, to go to the polls and go, hey, got to shut this shit down once and for all.
I know,
especially
it's scary.
He spent days shit talking that, listen, it's the people in Georgia that put Kemp and Ratzenberger in the office. They voted him in. They love him, right? Kemp is a loyal Republican.
So you think that Trump has done enough damage that the Democrats are going to win both these races?
I hope so. I mean, really, for me, logic says they're going to lose them both, but something inside me just says maybe this will be the thing. But if it doesn't, I'm fine. We will then see what happens between now and 2022, and if they fuck it up, then we're going to take them out. When I say I mean the Democrats.
Let me see how much more of this I have. Oops.
So tell me, Brad, what are we going to do? We won the election, and
it sounds like he's fucking eating too.
Not fair to take it away from us like this.
He's got a big
and it's going to be very costly in many ways. And
it's not fair.
I think you have to say that you're going to re-examine it, and you can re-examine it, but re-examine it with people that want to find answers, not people that don't want to find answers. For instance, I'm hearing Ryan, and he's probably, I'm sure, a great lawyer and everything, but he's making statements about those ballots that he doesn't know. But he's making them with such, he did make them with surety, but now I think he's less sure, because the answer is they all went to Biden. And that alone wins us the election by a lot.
He's fucking crazy.
It's a 4 years you can never get back. Oh God! Thank God it's 2021, because 1 year closer to being done with this asshole. Ay.
Well,
is that it? Is that all you got?
I think there might be a little more. Hang on.
I should have brought up the transcript.
Mr. President, you have people that submit information, and we have our people that submit information, and then it comes before the court, and the court then has to make a determination. We have to stand by our numbers. We believe our numbers are right.
That's right.
Well, under law, you're not allowed to give faulty election results, okay? You're not allowed to do that, and that's what you've done. This is a faulty election result. And honestly, this should go very fast. You should meet tomorrow, because you have a big election coming up, and because of what you've done to the president, the people of Georgia know that this was a scam.
President.
And because of what you've done to the president, a lot of people aren't going out to vote. And a lot of Republicans are going to vote negative because they hate what you did to the president. Okay? They hate it. And they're going to vote. And if you would be respected, if this thing could be straightened out before the election. You have a big election coming up on Tuesday.
Well, he's the third person president now, and they're going to vote negative.
What you've done to the president. Oh my God. Yeah, that was awesome. I didn't even, I knew about this phone call, and I just thought just before, I was getting ready to start this, it would be interesting to see the transcript. And now I'm glad I did. And so that's good. Great minds are thinking alike.
Yeah. Well, send it to me if you have it. Save me from having to go.
I'll see if I can send you the link.
Yeah, that'll be
NBC
good reading.
or something. Yeah, buddy. All right.
So,
hey, Good to see you. Welcome back to the United States.
Yeah, good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, you too.
All right, everyone.
All right, are we done?
We're
Bye.
done. Take care. Bye.
Happy New Year.